Sarah, June 23, 1944. Deep in the Atlantic, Commander Uno Kamio is aboard the I-52, a massive Japanese cargo submarine. It's packed with gold, tin, vital war materials, heading for German-occupied France.
A critical mission. What was the situation?
They had just rendezvoused with a German U-boat, transferred radar gear and technicians. Everything seemed perfect. Kamio planned to surface and make a fast night run towards Europe.
But something went wrong?
Catastrophically wrong. Within 3 hours, Commander Kamio, his 94 crewmen, and all passengers would be dead at the bottom of the Atlantic.
What happened? A destroyer?
Worse. They were victims of a technology they didn't even know existed. American aircraft circling miles above recorded the sounds of their submarine breaking apart, listening through small devices floating on the ocean surface.
Listening devices in the water?
Sonobuoys. The death throes of the I-52 marked a turning point, the moment Japanese naval confidence began to shatter. The ocean, once their path to empire, had become an American surveillance network.
That's chilling. So this wasn't just about losing one submarine.
No, it symbolized a massive technological imbalance. Look at the numbers, Sarah. Between 1941 and 1945, American submarines sank over 1,300 Japanese ships, accounting for more than half their total merchant losses.
And Japanese submarines? They were famously advanced, weren't they?
Technically brilliant, some of them, like the I-400 class, the largest submarines in the world, capable of carrying aircraft. But despite this, Japanese subs only sank 184 Allied ships.
That disparity is huge. Why?
It came down to different approaches. Japan built magnificent, specialized vessels, focusing on attacking warships. America focused on commerce raiding and, crucially, invested heavily in anti-submarine warfare technology.
Like those sonobuoys.
Sonobuoys, FM sonar for mine detection, acoustic homing torpedoes, advanced radar. American factories churned this technology out faster than Japan could even comprehend it, let alone counter it.
So Japanese crews started realizing they were being hunted by ghosts.
Exactly. It wasn't one single battle, but a slow, dawning horror. Thousands of encounters where they were tracked by forces they couldn't see, using technology they didn't understand, being systematically wiped out.
Tell me more about the Japanese submarine force at the start of the war. They sounded formidable.
They absolutely were, one of the world's best. Japan had around 70 advanced ocean-going submarines.
Including those giant I-400s you mentioned?
Yes, the I-400 class were underwater aircraft carriers, 400 feet long, capable of carrying 3 float-plane bombers. They had the range to circumnavigate the globe 1.5 times.
Incredible engineering. They could theoretically strike the U.S. mainland.
That was the idea. They had advanced features, air search radar, sonar-absorbing coatings. Even their smaller cargo subs, like the I-52, had immense range.
And the crews were highly trained?
Very disciplined, experienced, and confident. They played key roles early in the war, supporting fleet operations, doing reconnaissance.
But their doctrine focused on attacking warships, not merchant ships.
Correct. That was a strategic blunder. While they hunted American carriers, U.S. submarines systematically destroyed Japan's vital merchant fleet, strangling their war economy.
And this focus also meant they ran headlong into the most heavily defended American naval forces,
putting them directly in the crosshairs of America's rapidly advancing anti-submarine warfare technology.
Let's talk about those sonobuoys. Where did they come from?
They were initially a British idea, codenamed High T, developed in 1944. Small, simple, battery-powered sonar units dropped from aircraft.
Floating microphones, essentially.
Pretty much. They'd float on the surface, listen for submarine noises, propellers, machinery, and transmit those sounds back to the aircraft via radio.
That completely changes the game for air patrols.
It revolutionized it. Before sonobuoys, once a sub dived, it vanished from aircraft radar and visual sight. Now, the aircraft could continue tracking it underwater.
How did they use them in practice?
An aircraft would drop a pattern of several buoys, often color-coded, creating a listening grid. The operator in the plane would cycle through the buoy frequencies, listening for any sign of the submerged sub.
Pinpointing its location and movement.
With terrifying accuracy. It became standard procedure on American anti-submarine aircraft, and the crew of the I-52 were among the first Japanese sailors to experience its lethal effectiveness.
Let's reconstruct the I-52's final hours. After meeting the German U-boat, Kameo surfaced to run at speed.
And an American plane picked them up?
Yes, an Avenger torpedo bomber from the escort carrier USS Bogue detected the massive submarine on radar around 11:40 p.m.
Standard procedure. Drop flares, attack with depth bombs as it dives.
Which is exactly what Lieutenant Commander Jesse Taylor did. The initial depth bomb attack bracketed the I-52 but didn't score a fatal hit as it crash-dived. But Taylor wasn't finished.
No. He dropped a purple sonobuoy.
Within moments, his radio operator heard the distinct sound of I-52's propellers, transmitted clearly from the buoy.
So, even though the sub was deep underwater, Taylor could still see it acoustically.
He could track its every move. He followed its evasive maneuvers, anticipated its path, and positioned his Avenger perfectly.
For the killing blow.
He dropped a Mark 24 Fido torpedo. This wasn't a conventional torpedo. It was an acoustic homing weapon. It locked on to the sound of I-52's propellers and chased it down.
And the sonobuoys heard everything.
They recorded the explosion, followed by sickening crackling and crunching noises, described later as like a tin can being crushed. The recordings still exist.
The news that American planes could track submarines underwater must have spread panic through the Japanese submarine fleet.
It was terrifying. Diving no longer meant safety. It just meant you couldn't see the hunter, who could still hear you perfectly.
And the Americans combined these technologies
Into deadly hunter-killer groups, usually centered around an escort carrier like the USS Bogue. They used radar to find surfaced subs, sonobuoys to track them underwater, and acoustic torpedoes to finish them off. The Bogue's task force alone sank 13 Axis submarines using these integrated tactics.
Japanese submariners started reporting strange things.
Yes, planes appearing directly overhead after they dived, depth charges falling with uncanny accuracy, torpedoes that seemed to follow their every turn. They were being hunted by ghosts.
And then came Operation Barney. That must have been the final psychological blow.
Operation Barney, in June 1945. It involved another piece of advanced American tech, FM sonar.
What was special about FM sonar?
It was specifically designed to detect underwater obstacles, like mines. It emitted a distinct chime, nicknamed Hell's Bells, whenever a mine was detected.
And the Sea of Japan was supposed to be impenetrable because of massive minefields.
4 dense lines of mines protected the Tsushima Strait. The Japanese felt it was their private lake. But using FM sonar, 9 American submarines mapped the minefields and navigated right through them.
Imagine being on one of those American subs in June 1945, submerged in the Tsushima Strait.
deep in enemy territory, surrounded by mines.
The FM sonar is painting a picture of the minefield ahead. The hell's bells are chiming constantly as the sub weaves between mines, sometimes only 50 yards apart.
After 20 hours underwater, they slipped through, undetected, into the Sea of Japan.
9 American submarines loose in Japan's supposedly safe backyard.
The result was carnage. In just over 2 weeks, those 9 subs sank 28 Japanese ships, including a submarine and a destroyer. They operated with total impunity.
Japanese Naval Command must have been stunned. How were they getting through the mines?
They didn't know. All they knew was that American submarines were suddenly appearing in their safest waters, attacking at will.
The psychological impact was immense. If even the Sea of Japan wasn't safe, nowhere was.
For the Japanese submarine commanders still out there, the message was clear.
The technological gap was insurmountable. Every patrol was now just about trying to survive, not about fighting effectively.
And this tech gap wasn't just sonar, was it?
Not even close. Radar was another huge factor. American submarines had effective radar early on, allowing them to detect ships over 20 miles away.
When did Japanese submarines get radar?
Not until mid-1944, and even then it was limited and inferior. American subs could find and track Japanese ships long before they were seen themselves.
Add code breaking to that?
Ultra-intelligence. The Americans were often reading Japanese naval messages, sometimes knowing a submarine's orders and patrol route before its own captain did.
So Japanese subs were sailing into an ocean where the enemy knew where they were going, and had the technology to track them every step of the way.
It was paranoia grounded in reality. Commander Nambu of the giant I-401 later described it as feeling constantly watched, never safe.
And then there's the industrial disparity.
While Japan struggled to keep maybe 70 submarines operational, America built over 300 during the war. Losses were replaced almost immediately. American yards like Electric Boat and Portsmouth Naval Yard were launching new subs at a rate Japan couldn't even dream of. Even American torpedoes, which started the war notoriously defective, became a symbol of this gap.
The infamous Mark 14 torpedo failures.
Yes, but the crucial point is that American submariners themselves diagnosed the problems and forced the bureaucracy to fix them. By late 1943, the Mark 14 was reliable, and they also had the electric, wakeless Mark 18.
And the FIDO acoustic homing torpedo that sank the I-52.
Yes, but the crucial point is that American submariners themselves diagnosed the problems and forced the bureaucracy to fix them. By late 1943, the Mark 14 was reliable, and they also had the electric, wakeless Mark 18.
And the FIDO acoustic homing torpedo that sank the I-52.
So, for the Japanese submariner, every encounter just reinforced the hopelessness. Every patrol hammered home the lesson. The ocean was now American territory. By 1944, U.S. subs were sinking, on average, 1 Japanese ship per day.
Strangling Japan's supply lines for oil, rubber, food.
Exactly. By 1945, American submarines were actually having trouble finding targets worthy of a torpedo. The Japanese merchant marine had been annihilated. Japan's own leaders later admitted that the loss of shipping, primarily to U.S. submarines, was the single greatest cause of their defeat.
What happened to the surviving Japanese submariners and their advanced boats, like the I-400s?
The surrender brought the final crushing revelations. Captain Arizmuzi, a key figure behind the I-400 program, chose suicide rather than surrender. He knew the dream was over.
And when the Americans boarded those giant I-400s?
They were amazed by the size and engineering, longer than U.S. destroyers. But they also knew these magnificent machines had achieved nothing. American technology had rendered their missions impossible before they even began.
American engineers studied them, I assume?
Thoroughly. They found impressive designs but also critical flaws: weaker hulls, easier sonar detection, lack of radar, inadequate fire control compared to US subs.
And then the ultimate symbol of obsolescence.
In 1946, the Americans took the captured I-400s and other Japanese subs out to sea off Hawaii and sank them as targets, partly to keep them out of Soviet hands. Japan's technological marvels were reduced to target practice. The message couldn't be clearer. Japan had built impressive machines, but America had built the system, the sonar, the radar, the torpedoes, the industrial capacity that made them irrelevant. The ocean belonged to the nation that controlled the technology, and Japanese submariners had learned that brutal lesson firsthand.